Hey first grade friends, and welcome to today's Writer's Workshop lesson. I'm back here in my kitchen, so I have this nice big table that I can work on with you. And the first thing that you're going to need to make sure that you have for this lesson is your graphic organizers for your fairy tale. So you have one that's been mapping out the 6 elements of the fairy tale, and then you should also have one for your starting, how to start your fairy tale, and one for the ending of your fairy tale. So if you don't have those yet, pause the video now and go get those. All right, so today we're going to take our fairy tales and we are going to begin the process of creating your very own book and starting to put it all together. So we're going to think about the materials that you need, we're going to make the plan of how you're going to get there, and you're actually going to be starting your writing on your final version of your fairy tale today. So I have my graphic organizer here. And you notice I've been just scribbling mine down on paper. Some of you might have been doing that as well if you don't have a printer at home. If you have a printer at home, you probably have the printed out versions from Mrs. Sprunger. So the next step is going to be to choose our materials to create our book. I've gathered a few materials that I could find around my house, and I wanted to share a few of those with you. So one is just any old notebook. So you could, because it already has a binding, you could view this as your book and choose to use that. But with whatever option we choose, and I'll show you these other ones as well, you want to make sure that you have a spot to draw and a spot to write. So you want a space on your paper for your pictures and for your words. So again, you could choose something just like a notebook like I have here. Another great option is, I found these laying around my house, but some of you may not have those, I understand. Just a blank set of paper and a book like this that you could use as well. One other option that everybody should have at home, I thought, was your writing journal. So if you have your writing journal, you could very easily turn to the blank pages, go past the work that you've been doing, find the blank pages and use these. You could leave it in your writing journal for now and then maybe cut them out and use them later. Or you could have your parents carefully cut those out and get a stack of these papers to use as well. That's another great option. Or you may just have some blank paper at home. And this is a fantastic option, and I'll show you a quick way to turn that into a book as well. Before you fold it, you need to think about where you want your words and where you want your pictures. So some of you may choose to write vertically, like we often do in class, where you'd have your pictures up here at the top and then put your words down below. Some of you might like to turn it horizontally and have a little bit more room. You could put space for your drawings up here on the top and then put your words down below and staple these pages together when you're finished. You could also take these pages and fold it in half to make it your very own book. So this is a time for you to get creative with the materials that you each have at home. And one of the things that I love about being home during this distance learning period is just finding ways to get creative with things. We give you assignments and you have to kind of work through it in a way that works through at home. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold that and use this as my book. Just make sure that you have the binding, the spine for your book in the right place so you're not writing upside down when you start to plan your story. So now take a moment to pause the video, go with your person who's helping you at home learning, and find the materials that you want to use for your book. Welcome back. So now that I've found my materials, I'm going to begin to start to plan out my story. Just like we do during our writer's workshop time in school, we want to make sure that we have at least 15 minutes of just writing time to begin working on our story. You're going to have 3 days to really work hard on your story and put it all together. So with my graphic organizer here, one of the first things I want to find is the way that I'm going to start my story. So the way that I chose to start my story was to begin with a statement like, once upon a time in the iciest, coldest place on earth. So I'm going to think about that happening first in my book. I'll think of this as the front cover, and then I'll turn to the first page of my book. I'm going to use this space for my pictures, so I'm going to leave plenty of space for my pictures, and then I'm going to leave space for the words down below. So, once upon a time, in the iciest, coldest place on Earth, there lived 3 chinstrap penguins. I then will sketch my idea here and not start on my words yet. I need to think of what's going to happen next in my story. Next in my story, if I go to my graphic organizer and I just read through, it's not really in order of how the story is going to go. So this is the time for you to start to put that story together. And I know in the calls that we've had, many people are doing an amazing job of telling us their story. But remember, the reader only has the information in the book to go off of. So if you're telling us an amazing story, but that information doesn't make it on the pages, the reader's not going to read it. So make sure that you're thinking through your story and planning what happened first, what happened next, and plan your story across the pages. I'm going to keep this space on each of my pages for the drawings up top and the words down below. Then, after I've walked through and told my story part by part, all the way through to the end, then you're going to quickly make your sketches. Ooh, King wants to hear your fairy tales too. Then you're going to quickly put down your sketches first and then write the words. So, plan that story out across the pages, making sure you're putting things in order and incorporating all the great ideas that you had from your fairy tale. No matter what materials you've chosen, your next step is to plan across the pages, sketch your pictures first, not a lot of details, then write your words. The next 2 sessions that you're working on your books, you're going to want to set aside at least 15 minutes of solid writing time. We know the great work that you've done during Writer's Workshop this year in our classrooms. We expect to see the same great work happening at home for your families. Can't wait to see the progress that you've made. If you need any ideas or tips on the next steps and materials that you could find at home, just reach out to us. We're glad to help.